Ladies and gentlemen, at some point in life, each of us will experience pain at the hands of others. We may be betrayed, hurt, misunderstood, or abandoned by people we trust. It can feel like a weight so heavy we wonder if we'll ever be able to lift it. But here's something essential to remember. Holding on to that hurt can be one of the most limiting things we can do for ourselves. At first glance, vulnerability might seem like a weakness. It may feel like exposing our softest parts, the very aspects of ourselves that we want to protect from others. But vulnerability is not about weakness, it's about courage. It takes immense strength to allow ourselves to be truly seen by others, especially when we've been hurt before. When we embrace vulnerability, we allow ourselves to experience life in its fullest, most authentic form. We let go of the defense mechanisms we often build to shield ourselves from the world, and instead we take a chance on the possibility of genuine connection. Vulnerability means being willing to stand in our truth, even when it's uncomfortable, even when the outcome is uncertain. To be vulnerable is to be real, to show up as we truly are, imperfect, messy, and human. It's easy to hide behind walls, to project an image of strength and perfection, especially after we've been hurt. We might think that by concealing our true selves, we're protecting our hearts. But the truth is, by withholding who we are, we prevent ourselves from forming deep, meaningful connections. And we also prevent ourselves from healing. When we allow ourselves to be vulnerable, we give ourselves permission to feel, whether that's the sting of past hurts or the joy of new experiences. Feeling those emotions is not a sign of weakness, but rather an invitation to heal, learn, and grow. In fact, it's through vulnerability that we discover our true resilience. The more we allow ourselves to feel, the more we learn to process those emotions in a healthy way, which ultimately makes us stronger. Moreover, vulnerability invites empathy and connection. It's through sharing our struggles and our imperfect moments with others that we find solidarity. When we reveal our raw selves, we give others permission to do the same. This creates a space of mutual understanding and compassion where healing can take place, not just for us, but for everyone involved. By embracing vulnerability, we also learn to trust again. It's easy to become guarded after someone hurts us. We convince ourselves that if we close ourselves off, we won't be hurt again. But the truth is, in doing so, we isolate ourselves from the potential of true love, friendship, and support. Trusting again doesn't mean putting ourselves in situations where we're bound to be hurt. It means trusting that we can handle whatever comes our way, and that no matter what happens, we are strong enough to rise again. And in embracing vulnerability, we break the cycle of pain. We stop allowing the wounds of the past to define who we are. Instead of letting our hurt shape us, we choose to use it as a stepping stone to become more compassionate, more open, and more aligned with our truest selves. Ultimately, embracing vulnerability means that we honor ourselves fully, our strengths, our imperfections, and everything in between. It's about choosing to live with an open heart despite the risks, because that is where the deepest, most meaningful relationships and experiences are found. Vulnerability is the gateway to freedom. It's the courage to be exactly who we are and to stand in that truth even in the face of uncertainty. By embracing vulnerability, we free ourselves from the shackles of past hurts and open ourselves to the beautiful, messy, and rich experiences that life has to offer. In a world where we're constantly told to be stronger, better, faster, and more perfect, practicing self-compassion may feel like an act of rebellion, yet it's one of the most healing and transformative practices we can adopt in our lives. Self-compassion is not just about being kind to ourselves when things are easy, but also about showing love, patience and care when we're struggling, when we've been hurt, or when we feel like we've fallen short of our own expectations. Self-compassion starts with the understanding that we as human beings are fallible. We are not perfect and we will make mistakes. It's a natural part of life. But how often do we berate ourselves when we stumble? How often do we turn our mistakes into ammunition for self-criticism, shame, or guilt? We are so often our own harshest critics. When we hurt, we don't just feel the pain of the situation. We compound it by punishing ourselves for not being strong enough or not doing it right. This is where the practice of self-compassion becomes so essential. To practice self-compassion is to acknowledge that we deserve the same kindness, care, and understanding that we would offer to a close friend. Think about it. When a friend faces a hardship or makes a mistake, we would never speak to them with the same harshness that we speak to ourselves. We would comfort them, remind them of their worth, and encourage them to try again. Why is it then that we so often treat ourselves with far less kindness and grace than we would another? Self-compassion begins with recognizing our pain and treating it with the same gentleness we would offer someone we love. Instead of beating ourselves up over our mistakes or flaws, we pause, take a deep breath, and say, I'm doing the best I can, and that's enough. We accept that we are human, that pain is part of the journey, and that it's okay to not have everything figured out all the time. One of the most powerful aspects of self-compassion is that it allows us to release the burden of perfection. We live in a world that constantly demands more from us, that expects us to be unshakable, flawless, and unrelenting. But the truth is, perfectionism does not lead to peace. It leads to exhaustion and anxiety. When we hold ourselves to an impossibly high standard, we create a cycle of self-doubt and disappointment. Self-compassion, on the other hand, invites us to release that pressure. It invites us to embrace imperfection, knowing that it's through our struggles and challenges that we grow and learn. It's okay not to have it all together. It's okay to ask for help, to take a break, or to admit that we need support. Another key element of self-compassion is forgiveness. We cannot fully heal unless we are willing to forgive ourselves for our past mistakes, our missteps, and our perceived shortcomings. This doesn't mean that we ignore our mistakes or fail to learn from them. It means that we stop carrying the weight of guilt and shame as if they are permanent parts of our identity. By practicing self-forgiveness, we allow ourselves to move forward, to learn from the past, and to grow from the lessons it has taught us. We free ourselves from the emotional baggage that holds us back and instead focus on creating a future grounded in growth and possibility. In times of hurt, self-compassion becomes even more critical. When someone hurts us, our instinct might be to withdraw, to isolate ourselves, or to criticize ourselves for somehow being at fault. But practicing self-compassion in those moments allows us to maintain our self-worth. It reminds us that the actions of others do not define our value. We can feel the pain of betrayal or rejection without internalizing it as a reflection of our inadequacy. Instead, we acknowledge the pain, we give ourselves permission to feel it, and then we treat ourselves with kindness as we heal. Self-compassion also means taking care of our needs, not just physically, but emotionally and mentally as well. It's recognizing that we need rest when we're tired, space when we're overwhelmed, and joy when we're feeling low. Too often we put others' needs ahead of our own, forgetting that we cannot pour from an empty cup. By practicing self-compassion, you're going to be able to tell yourself, this is time, this is space, I need less from you for the eustace of my own more. We honor ourselves as deserving of the same care and love that we so often give to others. When we prioritize our well-being, we create a foundation of strength from which we can show up fully in our lives and relationships. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of self-compassion is the freedom it gives us to be fully human. It allows us to be authentic, to admit when we're struggling, and to ask for support without shame. It teaches us that we don't need to be perfect in order to be worthy of love and belonging. Self-compassion invites us to embrace ourselves with all our flaws, all our imperfections, and all our mistakes. It reminds us that we are worthy simply because we are alive, and we deserve kindness, not as something we have to earn, but as something that is our birthright. When we practice self-compassion, we break free from the grip of self-judgment and criticism. We learn to be kind, patient, and forgiving with ourselves, which in turn allows us to be more compassionate and understanding toward others. By treating ourselves with the same kindness that we would offer to a friend, we create a foundation of healing, peace, and love that empowers us to navigate life with resilience, authenticity, and grace. For much of our lives, we're conditioned to seek validation from the outside world. From a young age, we're taught to look for approval from our parents, teachers, friends, and society. We're told that our worth is measured by our achievements, the approval of others, and how we are perceived in the eyes of the world. And while it's natural to seek affirmation, relying on external validation can be an exhausting, unfulfilling cycle. The truth is, external validation is fleeting. It's like chasing a moving target, always just out of reach, always dependent on factors outside of our control. We may receive praise, compliments, or acknowledgement, but these moments often don't last. The feeling of validation is temporary, and once it fades, we're left searching for the next approval or affirmation to fill the void. This cycle can lead to a life that's never truly satisfying, and as we depend on the approval of others to feel good about ourselves. When we constantly seek validation from the outside world, we place our worth in the hands of others. We allow their opinions, judgments, and expectations to define who we are. This can leave us feeling powerless as we become like a leaf in the wind, constantly shifting and changing to align with what others think of us. Our self-worth becomes a reflection of others' perceptions, and we lose touch with our authentic selves. But here's the liberating truth. True self-worth comes from within. It comes from understanding that we are enough exactly as we are, regardless of whether others affirm or approve of us. The best way to break free from the endless cycle of seeking validation is to start validating ourselves. When we cultivate a deep sense of self-acceptance, we no longer need to seek approval from others to feel worthy or valuable. We can stand tall in our own truth, knowing that we are deserving of love, respect, and success, regardless of external opinions. The process of releasing the need for external validation begins with self-awareness. We need to recognize when we are seeking validation and ask ourselves why we're doing so. Are we seeking praise because we truly value the work we've done, or are we hoping that others will tell us we're good enough? Are we seeking recognition to feel seen, or is it because we're afraid of not measuring up? By becoming aware of our need for validation, we can start to identify the underlying fears or insecurities driving that need. Once we've acknowledged the desire for external validation, we can begin to shift our focus inward. Instead of waiting for someone else to tell us we're doing a good job, we can learn to praise ourselves. This isn't about indulging in empty self-praise or becoming arrogant. It's about recognizing our own worth, our accomplishments, and our growth. When we validate ourselves, we take control of our own narrative. We stop depending on others to tell us that we matter, and instead, we remind ourselves that we matter simply because we exist. One of the most empowering aspects of releasing the need for external validation is the ability to define success on our own terms. When we are constantly seeking approval from others, we may end up chasing goals that are not aligned with our true desires. We may pursue careers, relationships, or lifestyles that others deem desirable, only to find that they don't bring us fulfillment. But when we start validating ourselves, we gain the clarity to define what success truly means for us. Success becomes less about meeting others' expectations and more about living in alignment with our own values and desires. Moreover, when we release the need for external validation, we also free ourselves from the constant anxiety of comparison. In today's world of social media, it's easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, especially when everyone seems to be living their best lives. We see the highlight reels of others' accomplishments, and it can make us feel inadequate or left behind. But when we validate ourselves, we shift our focus away from what others are doing and redirect it toward our own journey. We recognize that everyone's path is unique, and our worth is not tied to how we measure up to others. Releasing the need for external validation also gives us the freedom to be authentic. When we are constantly seeking approval, we may feel pressure to fit into molds that don't reflect who we truly are. We might change our appearance, our behavior, or our opinions to align with what we believe others want from us. But when we stop seeking validation, we give ourselves permission to show up as we truly are. Flaws, quirks, and all, we become unapologetically ourselves, no longer bound by the need for others' approval. Another benefit of releasing the need for external validation is the freedom to take risks. When we rely on others to validate our choices, we become fearful of making decisions that might not be well received. We hesitate to pursue our dreams or express our opinions because we're worried about judgment. But when we learn to validate ourselves, we become more confident in our own decisions. We trust ourselves and our instincts, knowing that we don't need anyone else's approval to make choices that align with our values. Releasing the need for external validation brings peace. It allows us to stop living for the approval of others and start living for ourselves. We no longer base our happiness on what others think of us, which means we are no longer subject to the shifting tides of external opinion. Instead, we cultivate a deep sense of inner peace and self-assurance, knowing that we are enough exactly as we are. Integrity is often regarded as one of the highest forms of character. It's about doing what is right, even when no one is watching. It's about staying true to your values, beliefs, and principles, no matter the circumstances or the pressures of the world around you. Acting with integrity means that you align your actions with your deepest truths, your moral compass, and your sense of justice and fairness. It is one of the most powerful ways to respond to the harm caused by others. When we act with integrity, we are not swayed by external pressures or the actions of those around us. We are not tempted to compromise our values for the sake of convenience, approval, or gain. We understand that integrity is not about perfection, but about making choices that are consistent with our deepest convictions, even when those choices are difficult or unpopular. Integrity requires a commitment to honesty, responsibility, and authenticity, traits that can profoundly shape our interactions and the way we navigate the world. One of the most important aspects of acting with integrity is honesty. Honesty with ourselves and with others is the foundation of trust. When we act with integrity, we are truthful in our words and actions. We do not manipulate situations to serve our interests, nor do we hide behind half-truths or deceit. We recognize that honesty builds the kind of trust that fosters meaningful relationships and cultivates respect. By speaking our truth and standing firm in our beliefs, we show others that we are reliable, dependable, and worthy of their respect. Honesty, however, is not just about telling the truth to others, it also means being honest with ourselves. It involves taking an honest look at our motivations, our choices, and our actions, and asking ourselves if they align with the person we want to be. It's easy to deceive ourselves, to rationalize our behavior, or to justify actions that do not reflect our highest values. But true integrity means confronting the uncomfortable truths within ourselves and making the necessary adjustments to live authentically. Another key element of integrity is responsibility. To act with integrity is to take responsibility for our actions, choices, and mistakes. It means owning our behavior, regardless of the consequences. In a world where it is so easy to shift blame or make excuses, integrity demands that we accept accountability for our actions. When we make a mistake or hurt someone, integrity compels us to acknowledge it, apologize if necessary, and make amends. It means we do not shy away from difficult conversations or uncomfortable situations, but instead face them head on with grace and humility. Taking responsibility also means being reliable and dependable. It's about following through on our commitments, honoring our word, and being someone others can count on. When we act with integrity, we do not make promises lightly, and we understand that our actions speak louder than our words. Our integrity is demonstrated through our consistency, by showing up when we say we will, by delivering on our promises, and by being a person of our word. Integrity also involves fairness and justice. It's not enough to be honest and responsible. We must also be just in our dealings with others. This means treating everyone with dignity and respect, regardless of their background, beliefs, or status. Acting with integrity means standing up for what is right, even when it's not the easiest path or when it goes against the grain. It means speaking up when we witness injustice and refusing to turn a blind eye to wrongdoings. It requires the courage to challenge harmful systems and behaviors, even when they are deeply ingrained or widely accepted. In moments when we are hurt by others, acting with integrity may feel like the hardest thing to do. The natural instinct is often to retaliate, to seek revenge, or to lash out in anger. But integrity demands that we rise above these impulses. It asks us to refrain from lowering ourselves to the level of those who have wronged us. Instead of responding in kind, we act from a place of moral clarity. We choose to be the bigger person, to respond with dignity and respect, and to stand by our values even in the face of adversity. Acting with integrity also means practicing compassion, both toward others and toward ourselves. When we maintain our integrity, we recognize that everyone is on their own journey with their own struggles and imperfections. We understand that those who hurt us may be acting from a place of their own pain, fear, or ignorance. While this does not excuse their behavior, it helps us respond with understanding rather than anger or resentment. Integrity asks us to treat others with the same kindness and empathy that we would want for ourselves, and to hold ourselves to a higher standard in our interactions. Integrity is also about maintaining consistency in our values no matter the context. It means that what we stand for does not change based on who we're with, where we are, or what's at stake. Whether we're alone or surrounded by others, in moments of triumph or failure, acting with integrity means we remain steadfast in our principles. We do not compromise our values for the sake of convenience, approval, or gain. We know that true fulfillment comes from living a life that reflects our most authentic self. When we act with integrity, we do not seek to control or manipulate others. Rather, we inspire them through our example. Our actions become a reflection of the values we hold dear, and in doing so, we become a beacon of honesty, fairness, and responsibility for those around us. Integrity creates trust, builds strong relationships, and cultivates an environment of respect and mutual understanding. Perhaps one of the greatest rewards of acting with integrity is the sense of inner peace it brings. When we live in alignment with our values, when we act in ways that reflect our true selves, we experience a deep sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. We are not torn by internal conflict or consumed by guilt or shame. We know that we are doing our best to live with honor, and that knowledge brings a quiet strength and confidence that nothing external can take away. When someone hurts us, whether through betrayal, lies, disrespect, or cruelty, the instinct to retaliate can be overwhelming. We may feel a deep, visceral need to exact revenge, to make them feel the pain we've experienced. The desire for revenge seems like a natural response to being wronged. It promises to bring justice, to balance the scales of hurt and harm. But revenge, while it may offer temporary satisfaction, often leads to deeper pain, perpetuating a cycle of negativity and harm that hurts not only the other person, but ourselves as well. Letting go of revenge is a powerful act of liberation. It doesn't mean that we condone the behavior of those who have hurt us, nor does it suggest that we simply forget what has happened. Letting go of revenge means that we choose to stop allowing the actions of others to control our lives, our emotions, and our sense of self-worth. It's a conscious decision to break free from the toxic grip of anger and resentment and to embrace a more peaceful, empowered way of moving forward. One of the first steps in letting go of revenge is recognizing the destructive nature of holding on to anger. When we hold on to the desire for revenge, we allow the person who hurt us to continue to control our emotions. The anger we feel becomes a heavy weight that we carry, impacting our mental, emotional, and even physical well-being. It consumes our thoughts, making it difficult to move forward with peace and clarity because it gets larger and larger with each loss we have. The longer we dwell on our desire for vengeance, the more energy we give to the very thing that has caused us pain. Revenge keeps us locked in the past, holding on to old wounds instead of healing them. When we let go of revenge, we make the decision to release that grip. We recognize that our peace of mind, our joy, and our future are far more important than dwelling on the actions of someone who has wronged us. Revenge may seem like a way to reclaim power, to restore some semblance of justice, but in reality, it only perpetuates the cycle of pain. It ties us to the wrongdoer in a way that keeps us from moving on. By letting go of revenge, we take back control of our lives. We free ourselves from the emotional entanglement that revenge creates and open ourselves up to the possibility of healing and personal growth. Another important aspect of letting go of revenge is understanding that revenge rarely delivers the justice we expect. When we try to hurt someone who has hurt us, we often find that it doesn't lead to the sense of satisfaction we imagine. The person we're seeking revenge on may not even feel the impact of our actions. They may not care, or worse, they may respond with more aggression or hurt. Revenge rarely changes the past or heals the wounds we've suffered. It only creates more pain, both for the person who inflicted harm and for ourselves. The cycle of hurt continues, and instead of finding closure, we are left feeling empty, unfulfilled, and even more resentful. Letting go of revenge doesn't mean that we allow others to walk all over us or that we accept mistreatment. It means that we choose a higher path, one that doesn't involve retaliation, but instead focuses on our own growth and healing. We recognize that the person who has hurt us may have acted out of their own pain, fear, or ignorance. Their actions are a reflection of their own struggles, not a reflection of our worth. In choosing to let go of revenge, we detach ourselves from the need to make them pay for their wrongs. Instead, we focus on healing ourselves and moving forward with our lives. Forgiveness is an essential part of letting go of revenge. Forgiveness doesn't mean that we excuse or condone the hurtful actions of others, nor does it mean that we forget the harm that was done. Forgiveness is the act of freeing ourselves from the burden of anger and resentment. It's about choosing to release the emotional grip that the wrongdoer has on us and to reclaim our peace. Forgiveness is a gift we give ourselves, not the person who hurt us. It allows us to let go of the toxic emotions that are keeping us stuck in the past and opens up space for healing and personal growth. It's important to understand that forgiveness is a process, not an instant solution. It may take time to let go of the anger and hurt, and that's okay. It's not about pretending the pain never happened, but about choosing to stop letting that pain define us. As we forgive, we release the need for revenge and move toward a place of greater understanding, compassion, and peace. Another reason to let go of revenge is the freedom it brings. When we hold on to the desire for revenge, we remain tethered to the person who hurt us. Our thoughts, emotions, and actions are all governed by the hurt they caused. But when we let go of revenge, we reclaim our power. We stop allowing someone else's actions to dictate our emotions and our life's direction. We take back control of our own story. We move forward with strength, resilience, and the understanding that our peace and happiness are not dependent on the actions of others. Letting go of revenge also invites us to practice empathy. This may seem difficult, especially when we feel wronged, but understanding the humanity of the person who hurt us can help us let go of the desire for revenge. It's important to remember that everyone is carrying their own burdens. The person who wronged us may be acting out of their own unresolved pain, trauma, or insecurity. While this doesn't excuse their actions, it can help us see them as a flawed human being rather than an enemy to be punished. This shift in perspective can help us release our anger and replace it with compassion. A compassion that frees us from the grip of revenge. And ultimately, letting go of revenge is an act of self-respect and self-love. By choosing to forgive, to release our anger, and to stop seeking retribution, we honor ourselves. We choose peace over conflict, healing over harm, and growth over stagnation. Revenge only keeps us stuck in the past, while letting go allows us to move forward with clarity and purpose. In conclusion, the best revenge we can offer to those who hurt us is not found in retaliation, but in our ability to rise above the negativity and act from a place of personal integrity, healing, and strength. When we choose to embrace vulnerability, practice self-compassion, and release the need for external validation, we begin to reclaim our power from those who seek to diminish us. By acting with integrity, we demonstrate that our values are not easily swayed by the actions of others, and we choose to live authentically rather than allowing the pain inflicted upon us to shape our character. Letting go of revenge doesn't mean that we let others walk over us or condone their harmful behavior. Rather, it is a decision to free ourselves from the cycle of hurt and retaliation and to choose a path of healing, peace, and personal growth. It is through forgiveness, understanding, and the courage to let go of anger that we truly break free from the chains of resentment and find liberation in our own hearts. By embracing these principles, we learn that the most powerful response to those who seek to harm us is not to seek retribution, but to live in alignment with our deepest values and become the person we are meant to be, one who rises above adversity. remains true to themselves, and is not defined by the wrongs of others. In doing so, we create a life not shaped by pain or revenge, but by wisdom, peace, and inner strength. And in that, we find our greatest revenge, the peace and freedom to live fully, unapologetically, and with the unwavering conviction that we are enough.